Yeah, no, it's fine. Computers always need a reset every once in a while. So, uh, yeah, you were asking whether or not uh, I think Elon Musk screwed up with going with the visual only approach.
Yeah. Did he gamble wrong?
Uh, no. So, like, here's the thing. When he made those claims, in all fairness, when he made those claims, LiDAR was stupid expensive.
Yeah.
It was the price of a base model Corolla almost. So adding those to the cars proactively as a way of future-proofing your car for self-driving in the future doesn't make sense. Absolutely does not make sense. Well, it didn't make sense, but now LiDAR has come down to a price, so now everyone's saying, did Elon Musk bet wrong because LiDAR's come down so much in price? It's like, oh my God, he's not ready for LiDAR. So we have to go back. Then we have to go back to the original premise of what the fuck was Elon Musk thinking? Barring his political ideologies aside, from a technical perspective, he was thinking humans can do the same thing using their eyes. What's preventing computers from just using vision? A vision-only approach to self-driving. Now, do I fundamentally disagree with that premise? Absolutely not, because he's shown through Tesla that this can happen time and time and time again. And it's shown remarkable success and remarkable adaptability. So here's what Tesla can do, and here's what Waymo can do, and all that stuff. Let's start off with GM Cruise, GM Super Cruise, and whatnot. You need a 3D mapped environment, pre-mapped environment that's already uploaded to the cloud, pre-processed, so that this huge cloud server can consistently communicate with the vehicle and essentially help it guide it through its environment, right? And the sensors only do obstacle tracking with like cars, so it only works on major motorways in North America.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is it's not scalable. It doesn't work in China. It doesn't work in Russia. It doesn't work in the EU. It doesn't work in local street environments,
So
right?
LiDAR doesn't work live?
No. GM Super Cruise doesn't
Oh,
work live.
yeah, yeah.
Now, what LiDAR is really good at is object detection. So it's really good at uh, dodging obstacles. Now, that being said, what is LiDAR not good at? So LiDAR is really not good at. So from what I can understand, LiDAR, Waymo and Zoox and all these guys are geo-fenced, right? So they don't actually have the training data set to work on long distance freeway interactions. And all these guys require a huge amount of data. They're really good at local driving. They're really bad at freeway driving. And at the same time, they've also run into like a bunch of like issues in local driving as well. But it's because they don't have the data. What Tesla's done really well is that they provided Tesla cams free for every Tesla, collected passively every driving, all sorts of information across all sorts of scenarios. So they have a very versatile solution that works probably 80% of the time everywhere. Whereas Waymo and Zoops and all these other LiDAR-based self-driving guys, they work, let's say, 95, 97% of the time in 10% of environments.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen the memes about Waymo.
Right. So then, was Tesla wrong? In terms of getting to 100% full self-driving in an environment? Absolutely, they were wrong. But in terms of a scalable approach where it could work across any situation where you drop it in, I think they succeeded.
So what's preventing it from reaching that next level?
Right. So a couple of things are preventing Tesla from reaching the next level. And mind you, I'm not a technical person, but what I can see is, first of all, a vision-only based approach relies on cameras, and cameras are notoriously flawed. So Elon Musk said on his earnings call that He said on his earnings call that they were using it's not just cameras. Inside the camera sensors were photon counters. And by photon counters, by using the photon counters, they could actually use minute changes in how much photons each array is getting to essentially make a contrast model, amplify the contrast, and get through blinding situations when in direct sunlight. What that means is essentially he's using a camera sensor because a photon counter is a camera sensor.
Can you even do that?
And he's just using algorithms to boost the contrast.
That's
That's it.
okay.
Uh, so yeah, no, like, but then, like, let's say you're in the foggy situation, then all of a sudden, yeah, it's gonna be flawed, but it's gonna be flawed as it's gonna be as flawed as the data set you feed it. So if all Tesla drivers were bad at driving in foggy conditions, you'd be cooked. Teslas would be getting into accidents all the time.
I see. And I guess if they
Mm.
trained it enough, then they
Mm.
could potentially be able to train it so that if it detects fog, then it'll slow down or something.
Right. Now, the other issue that Tesla seem to have is with object detection. So what I'm thinking, I'm not actually sure how Tesla does this in the back end because I'm not a technical person either. But I think what it ended up happening is Tesla just got rid of its rules-based AI system for self-driving and went full on end-to-end generative AI.
Interesting.
Now, essentially, what that means is the camera sees the frames that it's being fed, right?
Right. So,
The AI sees it and then generates the next frame.
damn.
And then in order to generate the next frame, it also generates a set of instructions for the vehicle to follow in order to generate that next frame.
Wow. Okay.
So that's essentially what it's doing. But what that means is if it sees an edge scenario, it's just as cooked as LiDAR. But what LiDAR has going for is it has object detection, right? What that means is you see a truck that's on its side. You've never seen it before. Tesla's will like Tesla has have been known to crash into objects that it has not seen before. Or now if they have a pre-programmed sensors like where if it's a foreign where if they're unsure of what it is, what the scenario is, and can't generate the next frame, they will push on the brakes. Whereas LiDARs will avoid obstacles because they have object detection.
Hmm. I mean, the GPT thing sounds pretty promising, but at the same time, like, then you're telling me like every Tesla is going to be computing like through cloud?
So so Elon Musk has actually come out and said hardware 3 will no longer work with full self-driving.
No way.
And only hardware 4 and above will be supported, and they're coming up with a new hardware 5 because the computing requirements for generative AI based full self-driving is just so intense. So he's actually going to go back and try and retrofit Gen 3 vehicles with Gen 4 or higher.
I mean, I guess like they just have to replace the CPU, GPU, I guess.
No, well, they have one master chip, but the other issue is that the camera sensor array is also outdated.
I mean, I don't know what he's gonna do.
Right. But TLDR, is the camera-based approach cooked? Is it flawed? Did he bet on the wrong horse? I don't think so. But I think it was a different application of a technology that it was a different approach that got us to a very different place, but we're just not satisfied with the results. So, like, if we were still headed towards a world where everyone bought their own private cars, Teslas would win out. because the costs are low, the performance is 80% there, and you would always have a driver behind the wheel. But what people ultimately want right now is, dude, I don't want to be behind the wheel. But then, like, so we're headed towards LiDAR. Now, the issue is, and people are actually starting to realize this, especially on like the more progressive end of the political spectrum. If the end goal is to not be behind the wheel, why not just invest in public transport?
Honestly, right?
Right. So that's the big debate that's happening right now.
It's pretty funny.
Anywho, yeah, so I don't think Elon Musk bet on the wrong horse. I actually like his approach. And I think it's more generally adaptive, and I think that's the base technology that's going into Optimus as well.
I mean, the generative AI approach is very interesting,
Mm.
and I'm sure it could like actually. I don't know. I just don't really understand how it would work with the computer. Like,
Yeah, that's for them to figure out.
yeah,
But what I will tell you is this: LiDAR processing also requires a robust computer.
it's true. And
Like,
also, like, really tough hardware.
right. But it's mainly because so Tesla actually, it's like this. Generative AI, LLMs, run its processes and tries to figure out what the next word in the sequence should be. That's the base technology. Whereas LiDAR-based sensors, all these self-driving companies that rely on LiDAR, it's rules-based. So it sees something, then it has to do this. And the matching algorithm is machine learning based. The object identification is machine learning based. That's their core technology, right? So if you do it, think about it this way. What quickly ends up happening is to honestly matching the rules and object identification, latency is a huge fucking issue,
I could
right?
see that.
You miscalculate and you have like 10 milliseconds of latency, it could cause a collision. So you have to do it all locally. But we know for a fact running these sorts of object detection, running these sorts of algorithmic matching and stuff like that, it still requires a lot of computational power. What we're quickly realizing is that it might be actually easier to run GPT on a local hardware.
Man, the world is crazy. Like, damn.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna stop recording.
Yeah.